Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of People Who Inspire. I'm excited to have a very special guest in our midst. Hi, Kevin. How are you doing this weekend?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, awesome. I'm really excited to have you on People Who Inspire. I follow your work, albeit in the background. I kind of have been looking at the great work you're doing. I think when the first time I actually saw your post, I think you had mounted some billboards in Accra, I think. And so I was like, oh, okay. So what is this Kissi and Co consulting group all about? So I was kind of really researching a little bit about you, went on LinkedIn and checked out a bit of your profile. And I said, no, I have to get Kevin on People Who Inspire because indeed, I think your journey will be an inspiration to my viewers. And so I'm really excited to have you.
Amazing. I'm happy to hear that. Um, I haven't actually been intentional about being inspirational, but I've been told by a lot of people that I need to start sharing more of my story because it's a unconventional story of how I got to, where I am today.
Exactly, and that's what I always want to delve into because the philosophy I have for bringing people like you on PWI is that I personally have a philosophy that I think success is more in the journey than in the destination, right? So a lot of times when we create these platforms, we recycle the same people that society deemed to have arrived in life, and we kind of shun people who are on the journey. And for me, I want to tackle, or I want to really bring people who I feel that they are still on the journey. I mean, they by no means see themselves as having arrived, right? But I see that the journey or the path that they find themselves on definitely will be an inspiration. That's why I want you to share a little bit about, you know, a lot of us see Kevin as this, software engineer, AI, expert and all that. But what I'm very much interested in is how you got to where you are, right? So can you share a little bit about who Kevin is, how you grew up, where you grew up, how schooling was like, up until, the point where, let's say, you got into college. Just curious.
Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity to give me the opportunity to answer this question. Yeah, I was born in Ghana. I was in Ghana until the age of 14, middle of the age of 14. Um, you know, if I can get more detailed, I was born in Korloko, if anybody know where that is. Korloko,
Which region is that?
Accra. It's not
Ah,
very far
okay.
from Rolling Circle, actually.
Oh, Rolling Circle. Okay.
And
All
then
right.
later on, my family lived in Kawule.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
Kawule is a place where they sell a lot of fishing nets material and fishing materials and whatnot. My extended family was heavily in the business of selling fishing materials, so the nets and the ropes and what have you. I think we had like four different stores and some
Oh,
warehouse or whatever. So not my dad essentially, but like the extended family. So it was, I spent some time at the store. I'll go there because that's where everybody's sitting, waiting for customers to approach and that kind of thing, and then whatnot. So after school, I'll go and sit in one of the stores. So that was my reality there. Um, my parents got the opportunity to come to the U.S. and they were preparing a place for us. Eventually, they brought us, but before that, I was just this guy that was terrible at English courses and other courses.
oh, really?
And yes, yes. And the way Ghana works is the people who are not so good, they end up in like the lower tier class, right?
Yeah,
Um,
true.
and that did not change and not change dramatically until around like class 3, class 4, and then all of a sudden I'm in the first class, like we're the
Oh,
elites of the class, right? And I remember vividly that we had 6 classes, and I was in the first one. Um, and actually, what was really moving the needle was how good I got with mathematics. Um, I was okay in the other
Oh,
spaces, but I was just a giant in math. Because my uncle actually inspired me and kind of was helping me at home. And then all of a sudden, I realized that that's my biggest strength. So that became my superpower. So I just ride that wave all throughout. Um, and so when I came to the States in high school, um, I tried to be really good at those things, and I tried to be a good student and everything. And I always wondered about, being an engineer. And so I did some interviews in high school with the engineers to just trying to figure out what they do. And so
okay.
one thing that I always was doing was something related to software. I was building websites. I was doing like the hacking thing that people used to do, hacking
Wow.
Wi-Fi. So I used Kali Linux. I don't know if I remember. Man, there are other operating systems that we use. So I really enjoyed people just, catching a glimpse of me with a computer screen and mic and just words. And it was just kind of like a separation between us, the advanced folks, and the normal people, that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
no, no more. Yeah.
Thing going on in high school there. Um, and so I decided, you know what, there's something I really don't, there's a particular part of engineering I don't really know already. So I should focus on mechanical. And so I actually decided to major in mechanical out of curiosity, not because
Wow.
I thought that's probably what I really, I'm good at, but I was already doing something related to software. So I was, I did mechanical, did two internships in mechanical engineering when I was in college. I realized, this is brainless. I'm sorry. Sorry to all my mechanical engineer friends. But I
They'll
felt like,
come after you.
there's no challenge here. It's routine. You're doing CAD designs and doing some
Yeah.
basic stuff like stress analysis and all of uh, and what have you, doing drawings and whatnot. So that's what I was doing at my internship. I'm like, no, that's a that's a meager life. I can't live like this. So at the time, I was minoring in math, and so I decided, and I took a course in topology, and man, I fell in love with math. So I decided to switch majors to mathematics. So I was doing that for some time, and then I came across this um, startup that we decided to start, building a machine learning platform that helps users connect with their physical world. And so I got
Okay.
really, really more closer and closer to that. And so that's what moved me out of the university arena. Um, Actually, leaving three courses behind in math, and so I actually did not finish my math. I
Oh, so
just
you dropped out
yeah,
essentially.
yes. Unfortunately, but it's not a traditional dropout. I mean, I was in the university system for some time, but
Yeah.
eventually, what really made it for me is, have I learned enough to be able to do what I need to do? And the answer was
That's
yes.
amazing.
So I decided, forget this. I'm not wasting an additional semester to take these courses. I'm just, going to Silicon Valley and try to make the best out of my life. So that's
Wow.
what got me there. And when we weren't able to like be successful in there and we were able to get enough capital, I decided to start Kissi and Co. Kissi and Co's job was to fund Aura at the time, this machine learning platform. So that's the
Oh,
only reason Kissi and Co became alive in 2016. So the startup was started in 2015. Kissi and Co came around to support that. I stuck around with it. My co-founders started getting jobs, and they just kind of left that behind. And I was like, well, I'm not quitting by any means. I'm gonna get this done by any means necessary. And that's how Kissi and Co came about. Initially, we were just doing, web apps and mobile apps, and we are actually doing security as one of the offerings. Uh,
okay.
so fast forward from high school, the jokes I was doing with the, Wi-Fi hacking and everything.
Wi-Fi hacking, yeah.
Mhm. So now we're doing some pen testing as one of the things we do. Um, and then eventually, actually, the way I started Kissi and Co, I had one of a friend give us a free office space and give us all his customers. So we were actually doing good right off the bat with Kissi and Co.
Oh, wow.
But eventually, we were getting more customers to actually sustain us. And so I ended up getting into corporate America, and then one job after another while Kissi and Co was running in the background. Started to expand into Ghana because I've always dreamed of building this all-star team in Ghana, pretty much picking ordinary people and really significantly growing their talent and their expertise as much as possible. Because I feel like to some degree I have benefited from exposure being outside, and so I wanted to come back and really like develop talents that can help me really build something unique and something world shaping and all of that. So came in 2021, decided, this is not going to work. I came in on an offensive at the time. The reality in Africa is very, very different. So that forced me to move out, and then came back into.
Yeah.
Now my focus was just on talent. Just benefited from the talent we have in Africa, and the ample amount of talent there is. Yeah,
I mean, that I want to ask a question on this issue of talent, and just before you continue, what I've seen, at least working in this space also for a bit of time, is that there seem to be like a paucity of talent, and for the very limited, especially people with highly skilled technical like capability, are either already in the corporate world, or they are like in like huge companies. And so I don't know, like, how was your experience like trying to find talents? Because there was a time, just as an example, we got a project and we were looking for like software engineers, for some specifics, programming languages. And I mean, we could literally like count a handful of people, and all those people had like multiple projects and they were occupied, right? And those who sent in their CVs were not up to the kind of standard we're looking for. What has your experience been like with like identifying talent, especially in Ghana?
Yeah, so it's been a learning experience, right? Initially, man, I thought that whatever someone had on their resume really meant that
was true.
really meant that they were really at that level. So my methods of hiring became very, very different, right? I just want to actually see you perform something, right? I'll get in front of people and say, hey, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I maximized
So
the screen. Yeah.
I would actually ask them questions that would force them to reveal how much they know, and I'll have people actually code. And so my interview process became a lot more intense and more interrogative, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and then I think over time, right, I realized that if I approach things this way, I really won't be able to hire anyone, because
No.
the bar that I was used to was so high, right? Example, I was a manager at Microsoft, so I was actually hiring engineers onto my team. And so
Yeah.
you're pretty much given this is what a software engineer level 2 should have and know and everything. So when I'm recruiting for a software engineer level 2, I thought maybe I should go for someone that meets that bar. It doesn't
Yeah.
work that way anymore.
It doesn't work. No.
Like, try to get people as juniors, and people, rarely anyone into senior. And my goal is to bring them on a journey. So I try to find someone who is like has a thirst for knowledge, someone who is going to.
Okay.
So for me, right, I felt like when I felt like when I was building up skill set, right, the work I was doing, even if I wasn't paid for it, I was still do it anyway, right? And that's the kind of thing I try to look for, because they're so passionate that the things that they need to learn, even if they're in the jobs atmosphere, if they're working in some company or not, they're still going to learn it at some point, right? But you're just bringing them onto the environment where it's going to be accelerated. Their learning is going to be accelerated, right?
Yeah.
And I try to look for people who already are going to do it one way or the other, and they just need a little bit of help and a little bit of push, right?
Yeah.
So these are the kind of people that I look for. They might not have all the the technical chops that I'm looking for, But if I see that this person can pick it up and this person is, very, very responsive to coaching, and that's the person I bring on. And there's this standard that I wanted to set for myself in terms of leadership, that I should be able to even like teach a dog how to code, and
Yeah.
be a good engineer. Um,
Yeah.
I had that for some time, and then I realized that it doesn't work. There are people
It
who
doesn't work.
not really going to comply. And so that's what I started focusing on, people who really want to do this already. Um, so yeah, it's been a journey. If you approach it that way, you'll find ample amount of talent, right? If you approach it, hey,
Ye-
meet the bar or, bounce, you won't find, right? You just won't get anybody worth your money. And so it's a change in mindset. That's the only way you can actually, operate here. That's what I think. Really, that's what I think, because the university systems have failed, and they're not doing what they should be doing. They're
They
not
should
caught
do.
up. Um, and the boot camps are, the boot camps are laughable. What they're teaching students is just nothing short of fraud. What they're teaching them, they're basically learning nothing there, and they're just being like, they're just paying money to learn absolutely like barely anything. You can pick anybody from a boot camp and say, hey, I'm going to give you a title of engineer. No, even a title of engineer it's junior engineer doesn't work.
Yeah.
So I remember this person, I really wanted to hire that person, came from a boot camp. I spent so much time on this. Eventually I said, no, it just won't work. These boot camps, have done some damage. And so, what I want to do is, the people that I bring in, I'm just pretty much taking them through a boot camp myself. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's the reality I've been,
Yeah. I think, yeah, I totally agree. I think expectation management is like super crucial, because like you rightly said, you are used to a certain kind of standard. And I'm going to tie that statement to your journey, right? So you moved from Ghana to the US. Obviously the standards are different in terms of education, right? You mentioned, for example, that you had an uncle who kind of supported you, helped you to understand some of the concepts in school and all that. When you moved to the US, was it really hard to kind of find yourself integrating into the educational system due to the different standards, and how did you cope?
Yeah, so actually, I had pretty good preparation in Ghana. My
Oh,
parents
okay.
put us through private school. We went to Dionsters, and Dionsters did a
Oh, the
great job.
youngsters, really?
Yeah, I went
Oh,
to
all my friends went to the youngsters. I was living close to the youngsters actually,
yeah, yeah.
growing
So
up.
yeah,
Oh,
Dionsters
interesting.
is where I went, and honestly, we were maybe like a year or two ahead of what they were teaching in the
Yes,
US.
that's true.
So
That's true.
when I got here, along with my sisters, we were just killing everybody, right? Everything was baby stuff to us, right? Um, so it wasn't very, very hard to integrate, except that they just weren't trusting that we can actually speak English. So they put us through ESL classes. One thing that I
Oh,
hated the most was ESL classes.
really?
Yes, yes, yes. So it was a journey to get to honors courses, because I wanted to take as many AP courses. So those who don't know, AP classes are like college level classes that you take in high school, and then
Oh,
you
okay.
test for them at the end so that you get college credits. So the advanced placement course.
Oh,
I was only able to take two because they stuck me in ESL classes for as long as they possibly could. Um, so if I had gotten out of ESL fast enough, I would have been able to take like a full
yeah.
1 year of just AP courses. Um, and so yeah, uh, it's something that limited us, but yeah, we were already at that level where we can easily just like
But yeah,
integrate and actually be much more prepared and ready. So yeah, it was
that
it was a smooth
yeah.
process, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I think the youngsters is, yeah. I mean, I remember I like at the time, preparing for BEC, my best friend was in the youngsters. So we used to study and like we would go to WIEC to buy past questions and then like we'll solve them. And I took his notes and realized they were at the time when JSS3, they were doing like SS1 chemistry, like they were doing the alkynes, and
Mm-hmm.
then all the formulas CnH2n plus 2. I was like, what is this? I said, yeah, that's, I was like, whoa. Like, and they were doing certs. Like, can you imagine? Like, when, it was not even the syllabus for JSS, and they were doing certs. Like, they were calculating some wild things and the almighty formula. I was like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, I can relate to that. And what was do you remember your first computer? Because when I talk to my guests who are into software engineering, most of them were building like softwares in high school and like primary school, and I got my first laptop when I was in the university second year. So I'm always curious, like
Yeah, honestly, man, this is laughable because the first engagement with the computer was in the downstairs. And pretty much what they were doing is they were just showing us this is the mouse, this is. We weren't actually using it, and this is what JSS, yes, JSS, right? So I didn't get my hands on the computer until I came to the US, which is 14, right? My
Oh,
mom,
wow.
sorry, my dad's computer, it was compact at the time, compact,
Oh,
compact, which was sold
yeah.
to HP. He had this big, huge thing, with system units, and he just used it to read news. For my dad, that was its value. The computer's value was just to be connected to Ghana Web and read news. But when he was asleep, I'll go down and then be using the computer, and sometimes I'll take it apart and see how things are working internally and everything. Upgraded the memory, upgraded the hard drive. Just playing around with things, and then I just added a new operating system, and then try to see how it will work to use Ubuntu on there, that kind of thing. I was just trying to run multiple operating systems on the machine. Trying to build a website. I think it's W3 or something like that. Or WWT or something like that. I was learning HTML, CSS, and JavaScript from that website on there. So when he wakes up, I knew he's going to get on and start reading his news. So I got to do all of that at night. So
Yeah.
part of the reason I probably did not grow tall enough in high school is because I spent most of my time not sleeping and being on the computer. Honestly, man, I spend most of my waking hours behind the computer during high school. I was just fascinated. So yeah, 14, 15, 16, that's what I was doing. 17, that's what I was doing. Yeah, the old man, when he wakes up, I cannot do anything about it. So I think I think my mom purchased a laptop maybe around 15 or 14, and she was not actually using it for anything else besides movies, and that's not like often. And I was the one using it. I was using it all the time. And then I think around that time we started to have more computers. So I think eventually there was probably like 4 or 5 computers in the house. Yeah. So I was constantly like taking things apart, fixing it, that kind of thing, right? Yeah, I was just grabbing scraps of computers and different stores, that kind of thing. I also I started working at 16. I worked at Taco Bell, so now I was making my own money. So now I can buy my own computer. So I did buy a computer. I bought a laptop. I think it was an HP laptop at the time. So yeah, 14, doing this at night, learning how to use a computer and doing all of this stuff. And then 16, now I have my own computer. I can do whatever I want. And then I got into this offensive security stuff, hacking Wi-Fi and all of that. Yeah, it was really interesting when I think about it. You used to get internet from AOL.
Yeah.
Running the disk that they give you.
Yes.
Disk. You run it and then you get internet. So yeah, that's the stuff we were doing, man. I was just like, man, scraps, everything, trying to figure out a way to just make it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll spend a
Yeah,
lot of time.
that's quite interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was, the traditional geek. That's the honest truth. I really didn't do much social stuff. I was more fascinated with the computer, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And like what I see in people like you is there is an intrinsic passion to learn what you know now, right? There's a misconception a lot of times when I talk to like young people who sometimes would approach me or any of my friends. They assume that like what we know was taught to us in school. Like I met I have a friend who like learns networking and network engineering by himself. Like he had this passion, and I can see that from you, like staying up late at night. Like no one asked you to do that. It wasn't homework, it wasn't anything, it was your own passion. So my question is, how important, right, is that intrinsic passion towards becoming like an indispensable software engineer? Like a lot of people watching are thinking, yeah, maybe I didn't study, CS in school or anything like that. And like, I want you to like kind of share some thoughts on that intrinsic passion to just learn and to know something.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably like pour a lot of cold water in people's dreams. Look, when you pick an environment like Microsoft or Google and Facebook and all this, people who actually end up there are people who just learn because they want to learn. My colleagues
Yeah.
were just, they have similar stories as I do,
Mm.
right? No one, said, hey, you need to know this, you should learn this and all. There are people who traditionally they just went to school, majored in this, and then they did their job, and then they became performant enough that they're worthy of being hired at these top, companies and whatnot. But the people who perform the best tend to be, people who, they don't really care about how much time they're spending on this or that. They just want to accomplish XYZ, and they learn whatever they need to learn in order to do XYZ. Man, looking around, the people who were principals, right? I saw that element in them, right? By the way, principal
Okay.
engineer at Microsoft is a big, huge deal, right? You're pretty much
Yes, I looked it up.
right. You're like a god.
I, yeah, I'm actually coming to that because I looked it up and sorry to interrupt. I looked it up and I was like, wait, how old is Kevin again? Because like, I mean, principal is like you are like you call the shots essentially, right? And you manage other engineers, and I'm like, how old is Kevin? How is he? Anyway,
Yeah,
we'll
yeah,
come to that because I'm intrigued by that. But anyway, sorry to
yeah, yeah.
interrupt.
I mean, I was one of the younger folks in my organization. My peers were much older than me. That
Yeah.
was the honest truth. Um, I at one point I think I was the second youngest, and then eventually there are a few, two or three people that were like, they spoiled it. Now, when I first entered, I mean, I'm going to reveal my age because now I've revealed it publicly already. When I
Okay.
entered, I was 31. Right, my
Okay.
peers were probably in their late 30s or some
Yeah.
cross 40s and what have you, right?
Yeah.
But the engineers they were principal engineers, they have similar experience, like people who spend all their lives just studying and learning and being good. So just going to college and majoring in computer science, coming out, straight A students and getting honors and whatever, that's not enough. If we bring in such environments, you'll be laughable, right? you know, you just cannot be at that level because the level is several towers above that, right? So just getting a degree doesn't really cut it. You need to
Yeah.
be several levels past that, right? You need to know a lot more past that. Um,
Wow.
so the people that I tend to be impressed by are people who just, they're just natural learners. They just want to
Yeah.
grow and grow and grow and be better. There are people where, like, if you found them at this skill level last year, there are people where, like, if you, sorry about that. If you find
No
them at
problem.
skill level last year, give them 6 months later, you'll be like, whoa, completely different person, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's required. Really, that's what's required. Um, I'm not saying no one cannot, people cannot enter tech without harboring this kind of mindset or way of living. But to really be one of the best, this is really it. And to really work at these top institutions, this is really it. And as a manager and other managers, really, this is the kind of thing that we kind of have an eye for, right? We don't actually say it like in plain words, like that. And we just say, we're looking
Yeah.
for people who want to help us solve our problems, but at the end of the day, that's what it boils down to some degree. And the people who get through that process are people who are naturally like that, right?
Yeah. 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 No, I completely agree with you. I remember I started a company, my co-founder, we founded kind of a GIS, Geographic Information Systems application company some years back, and my co-founder is maybe a bit more like you. He studied geometric engineering, and what like this guy can just pick up any programming language. Like sometimes we'll get like a contract and like he needs to build certain parts of the application, and he's like, oh, I don't know this programming language, but just give me a couple of days. And this guy comes back, and he's like, he's proficient. I'm like, how is that possible? And like I think 2 years after we started the company, he was proficient in like 8 different programming languages. Like, and self-taught. It's not like he said, oh yeah, just give me 2 days, 3 days, and then for those 2 days he's out of reach. Yep. He's behind his laptop, literally. Like, I'm like, yep. Man,
disappear and then come back. That's
exactly. He comes, exactly. He comes back and he's speaking the language. I'm like, okay, this guy he's something else. I think that's a very important. And then for those of you watching, this is a very important trait that engineering managers and principal engineering managers look out for. Now, Microsoft. This is where I want to come to. Tell me that like, first of all, why did you pick Microsoft, and like, what was your reaction when you got the email or the letter that you actually got a job at Microsoft?
The reason why, actually, I can't say the reason why I'm in software, but I think Google played a role in me going the software direction. I really just wanted to be a mathematics professor. 2014, all of a sudden, I got an email from a recruiter at Google wanting to interview me. And I'm like, I'm not even a computer science student. I'm a math student. What the hell? Why do you care? And so I went through the interview process. I ended up not getting the job at Google, but that process taught me that, I can do this shit. I can do it, And there's a guy, he's a director at Google. I think he's a senior director at Google now. Emeka. Yeah. I had a call with him once, and he told me, 3 years of experience at Google engineers are making $300K a year average.
Ooh.
At the time, that's a lot of money. Okay. Maybe now it's not about that. At the time, that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah. So I was like, I got it, man. Math is like a really fun thing. I can come back to it. I can come back to it. I decided to go into software. And at the time, Microsoft was the place a lot of us wanted to work at. And I ended up getting a support engineer role with a contractor that works with Microsoft. So I worked on a Microsoft campus, but not aligned under a contracting company to Microsoft. So I was an engineer supporting SharePoint. And so I got a chance to like see the kind of life of software engineers at Microsoft. And I was like,
this is what I want.
Right? Google is interested, Facebook has, sucked me out, but Microsoft never. I was like, what's wrong with these guys? Why aren't they looking at my direction? I don't get it. I need to at least do an interview there so they can see that I am, I'm ready. Never, nothing. So I worked as a support engineer. We tried to get into Microsoft, we couldn't. So
wow,
I'd left that behind, started Aura, doing my own thing. And actually, I was kind of annoyed and pissed off at the time. I decided I'm not going to use anything related to Microsoft. So I was just on Linux, right? So that's why I never really like used Azure. I was using AWS.
Oh, AWS,
I was
yeah.
doing AWS stuff like back then, like 2014. I was just building stuff. Everything I built in went on AWS. And I try to stay away from, anything Microsoft because I was just annoyed by that. Honestly, look, at that time, I was like, screw these guys. Anyway, so that's the trajectory I was heading. And also, I mean, AWS at the time, they were giving us free, what's it
Yeah,
called?
it was really good package.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Why would you even consider Azure if you're getting that? Right. So yeah, nothing within my trajectory said that I should be, heading towards the Microsoft direction after that. I had only forgotten about it. I mean, it's startup space. And then around 2020 or 2021, I believe, I have a friend, his name is Gerard. He was actually part of Engineer Africa. I came to a point, I'm like, you know what? I'm going after engineer manager roles. I was sort of doing some degree of leading the team at UNI. So I was leading contractors, but I wasn't like actually like having people report to me officially.
Okay.
The directors pretty much, the contractors pretty much work under me to some degree. And he was like, oh, what, really? So I decided to just start interviewing for roles. And the honest truth is, the first, I hadn't actually started interviewing for roles at Microsoft at all. I don't think I even applied for any engineering manager roles at Microsoft. I was just there. And then this group manager from Microsoft sent me an email. A recruiter from Microsoft sent me an email. I ignored it. I was like, and then I think maybe the hate was there. A little bit of hate was there. I don't know if that's the reason I ignored it or I just felt like spam. I don't know if is it a spam or I ignored it because anyway. And then a group engineer manager sent me an email in response in connection to that. So like they really want to talk to me now, right? So I was like, oh, okay. So I responded to her, and then we set up a time. We talked. She was, very impressed, and then we did a loop. And then the loop, I did well. And now I'm taking you through the process. I did well.
Yeah.
And then she went away for like, let's say a month or a half or something. And I didn't hear back from this lady. I was like, what the hell is going on? At least let me know what's going on. But other places, I've gotten an offer already. So I was like, and I was still interviewing. I hadn't gone to Google yet. Yeah, I hadn't gone to Google yet. And I don't know if I had already interviewed with Facebook yet. But anyway, they were down the line. So she came back and then she's like, no, we can't do it. We felt like your experience in the cloud is not enough. And I was like,
whoa.
I have been doing cloud in my sleep since 2014. What are you talking about? I can do anything in AWS in my sleep. Like, what are you talking? You guys never asked me any question relates to cloud, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I kept it to myself. I don't really care. But the recruiter contacted me to get, my perspective about the interview process. And I told her, look, I mean, she said, I'm not strong on the cloud side, but they didn't ask me anything related to cloud. So the recruiter was, oh shit, maybe I'm getting someone in trouble here. But anyway, the recruiter was not very happy with that. So she got me involved with another engineer manager. Got me involved with the director. And then I went through a loop with that one. And then I had another recruiter reach out to me at Microsoft to interview for another principal engineer manager role. Right. Oh. Yeah. So I was getting it from everywhere.
Wow.
This one, I'm going to mention this a little bit more because that experience was a little weird. The engineer manager, the group engineer manager that interviewed me, who was interested in me, was actually a British guy. And can I tell you, this guy scrutinized my resume so much. Like after the interview, I was kind of like depressed. I was like, shit.
Am I good enough?
Like, I'm not expecting anything from this guy, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I get an email from this recruiter saying that they're interested in going to the next level in the full. I'm like, what?
What?
Then I was already interested in the role with the other director. So now I have two
Mhm.
roles in play, right? Principal engineer manager roles at Microsoft in play. And I had already completed the loop
The loop. Yeah.
for the other director that was taken to me by the recruiter.
Yeah.
And I got an offer. So the offer, I was
Wow.
just at this Indian restaurant with my girlfriend at the time, and I got a
Yeah.
call. They told me I got an offer and whatever.
Whoa.
It
How did you react?
zero, which was very
What?
shocking. Yeah, nothing. I was like, it was just a regular day. I told my girlfriend too, and I mean, she was like, she was already like, my girlfriend at the time was like, saw me as someone that is bigger than I thought I was. Right? So she was not impressed by this. Just like, whatever. I mean, these guys, so she's
Okay.
not like impressed with me, but like, she's like, of course I knew this was going to happen. Of course you're going to get
Yeah.
this.
It's
And
yeah.
she
Yeah.
already
Yeah.
told me earlier that I was going to get this role.
You're gonna get it. Okay.
And
So
I
yeah.
was not so convinced I was, right? So when I got it, I was just eating with her, and it didn't really do anything to me. I didn't feel any excited. It just felt more like, now I got to do this thing now. So the other role, I didn't want to go to the loop because I was like, yo, I'm tired of interviewing, and I decided, should I interview with Google as well? And I felt like, yo, this Microsoft is kind of like closes the loop on me wanting to
Yeah.
be there, not getting the chance, and then now I'm there as a manager.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? This is a good story. Let's just go
Yeah.
for it. So I decided
It's
to
a good
stop all
story.
the other interviews, and I decided to just go work at Microsoft. That's how I made a decision. I just felt like, this makes a good story. Couldn't get
Yeah.
in, and got in as a
Then
manager as well. Actually, so that was really cool. So that kind of and also getting in as a principal, right?
yes.
I was actually looking it up to see, what is the value of principal, and I realized, oh shit, that's like,
That's
right.
that's
I
a
didn't
big
get
deal.
just a regular, yeah, it's a big deal. I think it's just a
It's
regular
a big deal.
manager or senior manager principal. So I was like, yo, this is a good deal.
It's
The
yeah.
other roles don't have that. Those do not come with the
Yeah.
bells and whistles. So yeah, so I decided to go that direction. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's like I remember I spoke with one other software engineer who came on the PWI platform, Jojo. So Jojo works with Asia, and we are talking about this whole thing. And when I was preparing for that discussion, I kind of was looking at, okay, what are the various levels, and I kind of understood what a principal engineering software engineering manager was. And when I saw your profile, I was like, this like at Microsoft, like that's like the pinnacle, in my view, at least from a layman's point of view, and with at least the little literature I could find, that's like the pinnacle. Like people like really would die for such a role. And then when I was also reading a little about you, you decided to leave Microsoft, right? With such a role. I mean, this is like the dream job, right? And so what like was there any reason you decided to leave? Was it because of your entrepreneurial adventures you wanted to do, or was there like what precipitated that decision?
In order to answer that question, I have to say bad things about Microsoft, and it's not a time to do that.
Yeah, exactly. So
Probably
just
not a
let's
good
say
idea.
from
Also,
yeah,
perhaps
but,
should just
but
set my
I'm
own.
looking at the external. Yeah, no, I just want you to look at the just the external, not the internal. So let's say maybe you got a point where you felt it was time to leave. I mean, something like that is fine with me, not the
Yeah, it's
details.
kind of
But
like the university system, right? Where like
yeah,
I felt like I have learned enough
enough.
to be
Yeah,
able to like do what I need to do. Um,
yeah,
but honestly, when I was there, I wanted to be either the CEO someday there,
yeah.
or executive vice president,
Vice president.
or
Yeah,
you know, I felt like I could be there forever, really.
yeah,
Um, And so yeah, I mean that's I wasn't just going there just for some time and then to leave. I
Yeah,
was just like going there for the long haul.
yeah,
Um, and I was willing to like let my other businesses die, so I could at that point.
yeah.
I really considered that, but um, yeah, I can't really say too
Yeah,
much.
yeah, yeah. No,
Um,
no, it's
yeah,
it's fine.
I really would love to because it's a really good story. It's a really good
Yeah.
story.
Maybe when the time is right, maybe in a
When the
book,
time is
you should
right, I
write a
would
book.
love to
Yeah.
share that story. It's
You
really a
should,
good story. Um,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I don't know
And,
if it'll make the news or not, but
and
a good
I
story.
mean, when the time is right, I'm very sure. I believe in that personally. That
It will make sense.
this, yeah, when the time is right, you realize that even the so-called mundane stories will always catch fire when the time is right, right? So I really appreciate that. And like from
But
there,
I'll
from
say this: so my
Microsoft.
friends know what went on.
Mhm.
My friends know,
Oh,
but
okay,
it's not
okay.
shared
So,
publicly. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, sure. And when I'm looking at the topic that I decided for us to look at, concerning artificial intelligence, and I know very well that you also co-founded. And by the way, I'm also very much intrigued by your entrepreneurial proclivities, right? Like I see that you in your resume, you are like a starter. You like to start things, and you also like to, at least from what I see, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think when you see a problem, you try to mobilize resources and in most instances kind of start an organization to address that particular gap you find in the marketplace. And one of the things, and maybe also you can correct me if I mention the name wrongly, is it Z of AI or Zof AI? I've always tried to like,
Yeah,
how's it
yeah. I mean,
pronounced?
man, I thought it should be an easy pronunciation. Zof AI,
Yeah.
ZOF
Zoff. Yeah. Yeah.
dot AI or AI.
Okay.
Um, so the thing is, I resisted starting another company. I really did. I really didn't want to.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. Right. Uh, I had the experience from doing test automation from US Bank. Right. And
Hmm.
then working at Microsoft made it real that this is a real problem that needs to be solved, right?
Yes.
Having to work with vendors to help us manage our quality um, assurance. Um, I felt like this is not the way we should do things, right?
Okay.
Especially for an enterprise company, at that level we have all this capability and all that, and we should actually take advantage of our resources and build a platform that can take us from requirements documents to full-fledged results.
Yeah.
And AI and machine learning can help us with that. Um, and I knew from having some expertise with image recognition from when I started Aura
Hmm.
that we could do visual tests with that, right? And so we could completely augment any human intervention in the process of testing software, right?
Okay.
Um, so I knew this should be done. I wanted to do it at Microsoft, just that it couldn't be in that environment.
Yeah.
And so it was always something that I thought about working on, but just didn't move towards it, right? Because man, I have too many things that are taking my attention, such as running Kissi and Co. And you know keeping I have to say it this way, keeping Engineer Africa alive because
Yeah.
man, I've been look, I want to spend some time and write about this, but man, I've been hit with the breath of fresh air just starting just being in Africa and knowing how stuff works. Anyway,
Yeah.
man, Engineer Africa made me almost depressed. To be honest. Not almost, I think I was probably, yeah, I think I was. Anyway, um, but yeah, we're still alive. But it hit home for me when I gave a talk in Atlanta at a test quality assurance conference
Uh-huh.
in August of last year.
Yeah.
I was talking about AI and QA and the kind of interaction I was getting and response and questions I was getting just told me that no one is even scratching the
No
surface.
one is doing it. Yeah.
No
No
one is
one is
doing it.
doing it.
And you can write this on the wall. Everybody is going to start approaching testing this way,
Yeah.
where we go from just requirements documents to full-fledged test results, right?
Mm.
That is the future, right?
Yeah.
And I know if I don't do it, it's going to be done by somebody.
Yes.
And I'm going to regret it because I have the full capability and the ability to get that done and solve that problem, right? Whereas I might not be the person that gets all the support
Yeah.
to help me get that done. But at least internally, I have the skill set, I have the know-how, and I have the passion, right? The reason, actually, in a previous conversation, someone was telling me, why would you have this out there openly like this?
Yeah.
Something I learned when I had Aura. Aura was a stealth mode startup for a very long time until I realized this key thing, right? Even if you steal an idea from me, you still have to build the product. You still have to work on the sales. You still have to raise capital for it. And you're doing it at a disadvantage because you're not as passionate about it as I am, right? You're just stealing an idea and trying to find ways to get it done, right? It still work. You still got to do the work, for it to work, right? So, look, I've moved away from this fear of someone stealing an idea and running off with it and then becoming a competitor for us, and we have the headache of competing with them. Look, that's fine. It's a big market. We can all be in there. I have the advantage of the vision. I have the advantage of clarity and quality. Anything I do, I try to do it at extreme quality.
Yeah.
I am pretty extreme on trying to get things to be really good as I possibly can be good, right? Yeah. And so that bias towards that is something that even if I'm trying to move fast, there's always a mindset of coming back to really bring back the quality to that level that I wanted to be at. So I'm going to come back to that. And so anyone else might not have that kind of bias or that natural bias to be able to want to do that, right? And so right now, my biggest challenge is getting as much support in, right? If I have ample amount of support in, I don't think we'll be beatable by any company out there that's trying to solve the exact same problem, or someone that stole the idea from us and tried to solve that problem. I don't think if I have the kind of support that I'm looking for, right? The investment that I'm looking for, the talent that I'm trying to find and incentivize to join us. If I get all these pieces to work, we will be unbeatable. It's just because of the way I operate and the way my mindset works and the kind of experience that I've had, right? And the way I understand is the kind of clarity and the conviction that I had on this. So that's the reason why it became a company. But I really didn't want to. I really didn't. I have to be honest because, man, I know what it is like to start a company. I've done a black eye from working on Aura. Man, all of my soul went into Aura, and it didn't go where I wanted to go to.
As planned.
Yes. Oh my God, all my soul went into Engineer Africa also making it work. That's why I became depressed when I realized, holy shit, it's not really going as I wanted to go. Kissi and Co. It's just, customers have a project, we work on it, done, another one. It's quite
another,
simple, so it wasn't really, so crushing or anything like that. But yeah, that's what ZOP is all about. We're kind of running a crusade right now, but eventually this is where, and you can hear here, some of our competitors, if they start adopting our approach, just know that you heard it here first.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to validate this approach 100%.
Yeah. I think you made a very important point. One of the things I think about when I consider AI and in Africa, right? And I think maybe it's just from a non-technical person's point of view. I worry about how the AI, or what kind of data AI is trained on, right? Because I've been running some some test cases on myself. I mean, by myself, I go to, ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever it is, and I ask questions about, say, King Agokoli, for example, right? Um, Nothing. I asked about Alexander the Great, tons and tons of data. My worry, and maybe you can, maybe again, I'm just a layman, maybe you can educate me on this. My worry is this: as we gradually are promoting artificial intelligence and there's generative pre-trained transformers and stuff like that, I feel that time will come that Africa would lose its identity and its history, because like the origins of these platforms do not train these transformers enough on these specific African history and details and nuances. It's just like what I think. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, so I've always held this belief that you don't have enough people in Africa solving um, problems or building companies or building businesses um, that become global enough that they have the influence. Right now, America has the upper
Yeah.
hand on influence and how things are built and whatnot because the companies here are global, right?
Yes.
If we have a global AI first company in Africa, that company will be telling African stories, or
Yes.
that company would be incorporating uh, data that is specific to Africa and being more diverse in its data set, right? The people here, and look, let me be honest, right? I've lived in the US for, is it now 21 years now or whatever? Uh,
Hmm.
most people that I come across, they have never traveled outside of the US before. And these are the people that are building software that we're using across the world, right? What would make them think that there is a world beyond the US, right? Unless they've traveled, unless, they've been challenged to think differently, right? So
Yes.
if we want things to change, or if we want ourselves to be included, we need to actually build these things ourselves, right? We need to have a seat at the table, right? There are people who work within these companies, like say, Google and OpenAI and ChatGPT, who might be Africans or whatever, and they're speaking loudly about making sure that the data set that these systems are trained on are diverse and inclusive. Um, the reality in the corporate world is that it's somewhat of a dictatorship. Okay, let's just be honest
Right.
about that, right?
Yeah.
Whoever has the
Yeah.
upper hand gets to dictate how things are done, right?
Exactly.
My manager says we're doing this way. I can protest to some degree. By the end of the day, it's disagree and commit. you know,
Exactly. Yeah.
right?
He's the sponsor. I mean.
Yes. So, unless you have someone like, for example, Google, I think they're it's good that they have an African in the position of, I think, senior vice president who's working on
Yeah.
everything
The
like that.
AI.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's good. So, I mean, by design, he might have an influence on making sure that the data set is somewhat diverse and inclusive, but he can still be challenged, right? So the main solution here is that us Africans need to empower other Africans, and all of us need to find ways to make sure that we're part of the development of this technology. We can use this technology to solve our own problems, and we need to focus on building businesses that are global in nature, right?
Yes.
Most I don't know of any like Ghanaian company that is providing services or its software is being used, outside of Africa at a global scale. There isn't any. Whereas when you come to the US, every single company that starts they can't wait to go global. They can't wait to go beyond the borders of the US. Their business plan is not just limited to the US, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so that mindset needs to change. So once we have that change in mindset, we can actually build solutions in AI and machine learning that can be exported to the world and can give us some level of control in the direction of this technology. Look, if we have a company that's competing head to head with OpenAI,
Hmm.
Google, and Microsoft, right?
Yeah.
In order for Microsoft to compete with this African company, they will realize that they need to also have a more inclusive data set, because by
Exactly.
design, this African company has that. So to compete with that company and say that, hey, we also have the same offering, and compete with them, they will just be forced to do that. That's the way business works, right? It's not this advocacy and evangelism. Businesses are
Yeah.
forced to operate in a certain way because of what their competitors are doing a lot of times.
Exactly.
It's a lot of things are by force. It's not by just simple encouragement. They need to be put in an uncomfortable position. You either lose, uh, or you survive and adapt as a business by learning from your competitor, right? If you notice what Satya did, right, when he came in, he basically learned from Google. He basically learned from all the existing incumbents in this cloud space, and then eventually
Hmm.
now is the number two cloud, offering out there. It wasn't
Yeah.
before. I think IBM was ahead. Um, what else? I don't know if Oracle was ahead or not, but in order to really become a serious cloud, first company, they needed to learn from their competitors, and it wasn't. It wasn't someone needed to just convince them. They realized that this is the only way to survive, and now it's one of the
Yeah.
biggest share of their revenue, right? Producing the biggest share of
Yeah.
their revenue, right? So that's the way it works. So if you want
Yeah.
things to change, Africans need to empower the potential of a global company in this particular space to come out of the woodworks. That's that's
No.
that's what I think is more powerful. That's the way to actually make it happen.
Yeah.
That's what I believe.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree with that because I mean you put it rightly because I think that and yeah it goes really deep the points you've made because we in the free markets that's how things work, right? It's really about competition and like what your competitors are doing, right? If you see that, okay, look, OpenAI is coming and then Microsoft strategically positioned themselves, they invested very early on, and
Yep.
now like they are really like it's really about
And it's out of
that,
fear
right?
of Google, what Google has.
Yeah, exactly,
You see?
exactly. So out of that fear of losing out, right? That
Yeah.
that FOMO. So I totally agree, and I think that's why companies, like what you're trying to do, even with Zof AI, it's a specific aspect of the value chain, which, like you rightly said, and I've also observed, like no one is doing that, right? Maybe my last question, because we are 7 minutes um, above the time, but my last question would be, and it might sound very funny, but are the robots coming for our jobs?
To some degree, but you have better jobs, right?
Okay.
You won't be doing mundane tasks anymore. You'll be doing more creative work, and more fulfilling work, right? Someone going to work every day and packaging, things and putting things and filling and packing things into a truck. And that's what I remember. After high school, for when I was 18, I worked at FedEx for the summer before I went to college.
Oh, okay.
And literally, we'll take boxes from the conveyor belts and then arrange it in the trucks. Oh my God, I hated that job, but it was the highest paying job at the time, right? AI an AI robot should be doing that. A robot should be doing that, right? A human should not be spending that time doing that and being brainless the whole time. I mean, you're not thinking about anything creative when you're just packing boxes, you know. So that's not a job a human should have. You should have a better job than that, right? So yes, it should come for all those jobs that are mundane and that are not fulfilling, and people need to be upskilled and reskilled towards more, human worthy jobs, so to speak. So I completely support that. Now we're going to probably need lesser and lesser, fewer and fewer software engineers over time. I think that's going to happen. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but then I can challenge myself and say maybe not necessarily fewer, but we'll be doing different kind of tasks that
Different kinds. Yeah.
AI cannot actually do. So,
Yeah.
that's the direction we're heading, and I think it's healthy. And I think also what's going to happen is universal income is going to become popular very soon. Um,
Okay.
when um, people are not necessarily able to do certain jobs anymore because AI is taking over, and they are spending their time reskilling and upskilling themselves into another job. Income has to come from somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And so,
Definitely.
you know, governments are going to start proposing this kind of thing so that they can make sure that people don't go out protesting and rioting and all of that because AI
Yeah.
has taken their jobs. And so universal income is going to come up to be a big thing now. So yeah, this is the direction the world is heading, and I think people need to be prepared for that. And
Yeah.
if you're only just skilled in one direction and you don't have any reflexes towards AI and knowing that this is how AI can impact my job, you're doing the wrong thing. You should start looking,
Yeah.
how can this affect my job? And then you position yourself
Yes.
to make sure that um, you can do things that AI cannot do in your
Yes.
job, and gain more skills to make yourself more secured. So that's
Yes.
what I think people need to do.
Yeah, and I fully support that. Like I mean, it's inevitable. Like we are at a point where it's inevitable. If you're an artist or you're a writer or whatever it is, right? I mean, you should know that people can use Gemini or ChatGPT to write a script, a compelling script for that matter. So the question therefore would be, how would you position yourself to still be a relevant screenwriter or whatever it is, right? And for me, I also have this notion that human interactions will become even more valuable. That's what I think,
Yeah.
because when we are interacting more with the screens and we are interacting more with our phones and with AIs and whatever it is, then not only do we free up more time, but then we begin to crave for human face-to-face human interactions. And I always make this joke that almost all the other senses or human, the senses of the human being are being engaged, except that of smell, which can only be done through, I can only know the perfume you're wearing when I'm with you, right? When I'm in it's close proximity. So
Yeah.
yeah, there'll be other things. And to wrap things up, there are a few comments and I think one question as well. This is in relation to what you mentioned about talents in Africa. There's someone, a YouTube channel called the Engineering Plug. And I know the person behind this. So he says, our doors are open. We gladly invite them to come see Beyond America. So he's saying that yes, definitely there are engineers in Ghana, and he manages this YouTube channel called Engineering Plug. I know him; he's a civil engineer, and yeah, he says that there are more engineers in Ghana. Another user from LinkedIn says, indeed, Africans need to empower each other. And that's so true. I think Kevin has made that perfectly clear. And the last one says, don't you think that African companies given competition will be bought by these US companies? So this is in relation to the fact that I think you mentioned that if we are able to give them competition, then they'll be compelled to incorporate the data sets from our parts of the world. The viewer is saying that then they'll just buy out this African company.
It's a free market, of course, but I
Yeah.
think anyone starting such a company should be convicted enough. I mean, look, I think there are several companies that offered to buy Facebook, but
Yeah.
Mark Zuckerberg chose not to sell. So if you have a long term vision, I mean, you just wouldn't sell, right? So,
Yeah.
and I think people need to be, man, I think Africa, we have a lot of challenges we need to solve. People need to be comfortable when they start companies, to the point where like they're not dying to, like, when they get the first bread, they just take a bite right away, right? Yeah, I wasn't very happy when I saw, what's his name, Paystack being sold. I
Oh,
felt
yeah.
like, well, they have something really special here, and they should have kept going. But for them, it made sense for them to sell.
Yeah.
But I think that if they can hold out, they should try and hold out, and I think
Yeah.
that's going to make position Africa in a very stronger position when they don't sell.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. I know we've used 14 minutes of your additional time, and I really appreciate making time to be on the PWI platform. And for all of you that watched us, thank you for watching. Do you have any last words or final words for people who tuned in, or anyone who is going to watch this later?
Um, yeah, look, the world is literally your oyster. Try to make sure that you are solving problems that matter to the global world, the world as a whole, and not just well, we need to solve African problems. But if you're solving an African problem that can scale across the world, make sure that you're doing that. I think it's very, very important. I really want to see global companies coming from Africa. And I think that's going to make a big, big difference to our economies.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Kevin, and thank you to all of you who stayed tuned. I'll come your way with another episode next week for people who inspire. And I wish you a great weekend, and keep being